council meeting, the regular council meeting for Monday, October 25, 2010. And before we start, I would like to make a comment that unfortunately Councillor McNabb is not with us. Many of you will know that he's got some challenges right now going on. I want to say that he's home and he's doing well, and I want to say on behalf of Council, Larry, our thoughts are with you at this difficult time, and we think the world of you, man. So stay with it, stay the course, and fight the good fight. Thank you very much. I'd like to call the meeting to order now, and introduction of late items. Ms. Harrison.
Thank you, Your Worship. On replace page 19, presentations, add item 11H, staff reports, hotel feasibility update.
Thank you. And could I ask for an adoption of the agenda, please? Oh, sorry. Before we start?
Item, a couple of them actually. I think we'd like to move item 20 up in the agenda. Councillor Patsy is the first, and I have a request for a late delegation from Mr. Mike Gogo that I would require a motion for now.
Yes, you would. So you'd like to move it. Is there a seconder? Move and second. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so...
well, I think that should be moved.
Both are moved up. Yes, correct.
Thank you.
So we'll have, when we get to that point now, the delegation that was in Ms. Gwen Boyd, she may or may not be accompanied by Mr. Jim Goldsack. We'll see how that unfolds, but we'll also have the other delegations step forward at the same time. So, thank you. Is there a seconder? Move and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Move into the adoption of the minutes as amended.
As circulated.
Thank you. Seconder? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Presentations, and I think at this time I'll call on Councillor Sherry to assist me now, and we have a number of awards to the gold medal winners from the Canadian Masters Swim Finals held in May 2010, and you know, I'd just like to say that we all, on behalf of Council, we're all so proud of our aquatic centre that we have here in Nanaimo and the facilities that are there and the new timing clock which we recently installed. And a number of meets have been held, and my understanding is that everyone who has attended the meets have been very, very impressed with our facilities and certainly the staff there as well. So having said that, I'd ask that the gold medal winners step forward if you could, and Councillor Sherry and I will make the presentations. Well, maybe it's one very nice.
I'll find him and pass him to you, Cam. Is that what you want to do? Or?
Yeah, that's what
So how about if I pass it to you when he reads names out? Because there's names on all of this.
Thank you, Cam. We're kind of worried. So what we'll do is acknowledge all this wonderful stalwart group here of swimmers. And Councillor Sherry, you're going to do this one at a time. First delegation I have here, the first gentleman is James Scantland. James? Which is James? James at the end here. So in acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, 200-meter backstroke, and congratulations. We're so pleased to have you here. Okay, the next one will be a presentation to Nancy Ryan. Nancy? Sorry, Nancy, I walked right by you here. Acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, 50 meters backstroke, mixed 240, 279 medley relay. Congratulations. Here we go. Come on down, sir. You don't have to hide in the back. Come on down. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Don't have to go too far, okay. Byron,
I'm Trajan.
Trajan, sorry, Brian, an acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010, Canadian Masters Swim Finals. Oh my goodness gracious, 1,500 meters freestyle, 200 meters breaststroke, 400 meters freestyle, 400 meters individual medley, and there's still more. 800 meters freestyle, 100/119 freestyle relay, and congratulations! What a wonderful! You must be. Byron, you want to say anything? Is there some pictures here? Have you got someone taking pictures for you here? That
Yeah, they'll get pictures to me.
they'll get pictures to you. You're not going to have. You don't have a designated photographer.
I didn't bring them this time.
Oh my God! Did you want to say anything? What a wonderful job you did! Congratulations on bringing great.
Well, it was a really big meet. The first time Nanaimo's had a meet of this size. Nancy Ryan here was instrumental in bringing the meet to Nanaimo, and I think it was great for the city to have a meet of this caliber. So, yeah.
Well done.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations! What a wonderful win. Congratulations! And now we have. I did. I said I almost lost your medallion. I did. I'm sorry. Patrick Ryan. I think Councillor Kipp put a hex on me. And in acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, the 100/119 freestyle relay and the 100/119 freestyle relay. Is there a reason that's duplicated? Medley. Sorry about that. Bringing recognition and honor to our city and district. Congratulations. Is this same gentleman taking pictures? Is he charging for it? I hope it's free, isn't it? The next one, thank you, congratulations, is to Phoenix. Is it? Phoenix, you better help me with this one.
Toyercorn.
Terracorn. It does look like that, and I should have pronounced it. I'm sorry, Phoenix. So, in acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, 200/239 freestyle relay. Congratulations. Have you got somebody? No pictures? Thanks, Lane. Kim Brunt. Where's Kim hiding at the end here? Kim. So, acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals 200/239 men's freestyle relay. Congratulations. Have you got something? Good for you, though. And we have Allison. Me. Alison Elderfield, in acknowledgement of your recent achievement in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, 240/279 mixed freestyle relay. Does that mean there was men in there with you and you beat them? Just checking. Congratulations there. Have you got somebody taking a picture of you? And the final one is to Ian. Where's Ian? Ian down this end. Neighbor and friend and well-known swimmer in Nanaimo. Ian Burville, in acknowledgement of your recent achievement in swimming, in winning the 2010 Canadian Masters Swim Finals, 240/279 mixed medley relay. Ian, congratulations. Ian, do you know that man out there, Ian? Oh, thank God. Well, congratulations. On behalf of Council, I want to say how much we are honored and privileged by having you here tonight to the presentation. We're so proud of the Aquatic Centre. We're so proud of all the facilities there and the staff as well. The new timing clock, I hope, has been invaluable in bringing the award forward. And thank you for coming, and congratulations on a well-deserved award. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Pretty frisky today, eh?
You didn't have the wine. So, well, that's pretty great. Okay, delegations pertaining to items, we have none, and we're going to move into proclamations that 2010 November 1 to 2010 November 5 is National Technology Week in the City of Nanaimo, and B, that 2010 November 14 to 2010 November 21 is Restorative Justice Week in the City of Nanaimo. And we're moving into delegations, which is number 6, and I skipped by it so quickly. I was hoping that Mr. Swavey would assist me on that one, but he did not. Could we get we have 2 delegations now that we mentioned earlier, and the first delegation is Miss Gwen Boyd. Miss Boyd, and you may or may not be accompanied by Jim Goldsack. Where is she? You are? You're not? You might be? You're on. Welcome. You have up to 10 minutes. Now, we just need your name and address for the file, please.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Gwen Boyd, and I reside at 1041 Moyes Crescent in Nanaimo. I'm here tonight in the capacity as the president of HANA. This neighborhood group was formed just a few years back to promote and encourage neighborliness. However, HANA has now been galvanized into action with the city's plan for a 70-unit supportive housing project at 1598 Townsite Road. The neighborhood recently discovered a memorandum of understanding signed November 12, 2008, stating this site may be suitable for tenants with mental health and addiction issues, the memorandum of understanding. I would like to remind Council that this property was originally donated by the Chinese Memorial Society to the city. That donation included a wish list for development of the adjacent property that included intermediate seniors care. And the neighborhood was still on the understanding that this was a possibility until now. The City of Nanaimo only just arranged a meeting with residents in June of this year to let the neighbors know what type of facility the supportive housing was. While HANA is aware and is totally supportive of the housing initiatives of this council and believes in a hand up for the homeless, we are strongly opposed to the size of the project in an area that is a mixed residential area with a fairly heavy concentration of care facilities and schools. While no one knows the actual composition of the supportive units, the Memorandum of Understanding clearly states that it may be suitable for tenants with mental health and addiction issues. This has caused the neighborhood great concern. Therefore, given this clear direction, HANA is opposed to this development in our area for the following reasons. Number 1, the close proximity of the proposed facility to Quarterway School, which would be literally right across the road. Dufferin School, Montessori School, Woodland School. We believe that one dirty needle, one used condom, one act of violence, or one drug deal within the vicinity of a school, let alone on school property, is one too many. We feel this is not the way to watch out for and protect our city's children and teens. For this one reason alone, we hereby request the city planners and city council consider implementing a bylaw or a buffer zone around our children's schools. Number 2, we believe that given the large concentration of seniors within care facilities such as Travelers Lodge, Kiwanis Village Lodge, Dufferin, these seniors could be viewed by some as easy targets for crime. Many of the seniors can be seen ambulating around the hospital for a stroll with walkers, in wheelchairs and with canes. With the addition of this facility, there may be an increased inherent risk to residents within the area, particularly seniors. Unfortunately, the 24/7 supervision by support staff while on site cannot watch each individual while off property, nor can the RCMP be present in the area 24/7 to supervise these tenants either. Number 3, while the facility would have 24/7 supervision, it's our understanding that the staff will only be acting as liaisons to other healthcare and community services. In the MOU, it states that, quote, they will manage the building and the residents as tenants only. In addition, in the same MOU, staff will provide basic life skills for the residents. In other words, we feel that the tenants with active addictions can refuse help if they choose, come and go as they choose, have guests in their unit if they choose, continue to be active in their addictions if they choose, refuse medication or treatment if they choose, and spend their social assistance or their disability checks as they choose, even if encouraged otherwise. We feel this is a risk to everyone in the neighborhood. Number 4, our neighborhood has already accepted and absorbed many types of social supports, with some of those supports being 2 of John Howard Society's Home for Men, the Island Crisis Care Society's Crescent House, which is a 6-bed home for adults with serious and persistent mental illness, addictions, and/or forensic issues, an apartment building for stabilized persons living with different forms of schizophrenia, low-cost housing at the back end of Quarterway School and at the bottom of Meredith, an apartment building for teenagers on Waddington, the Phoenix Center Clubhouse at the end of St. George and the Island Highway, Nanaimo Mental Health and Addiction Services in Brooks Landing Mall. We also have a methadone distribution from Rexall and Beaufort Center. I won't go on and on. Our concern is that with the added concentration of supportive housing units proposed here, they could be the tipping point for this neighborhood. We just don't feel like we can absorb any more. Number 5, we are opposed due to a lack of clear local community benefit. Under the community plan, this area is designated as an urban node, and this area lacks community attributes, such as a community center. Can Council tell us what local benefits this project would bring to our neighborhood? Hannah would like to emphasize that we do support housing strategies for the homeless. We believe that a smaller, more intimate family housing model would be used rather than an institutional one. We believe that these smaller units could be placed around the city so that each neighborhood can help the transition from being homeless to being in a home. In conclusion, we respectfully submit 4 items to Council tonight. Our first submission is a petition, right here, of 1,137 signatures opposing this proposal. In addition, we are submitting a copy of the resolution passed at the last Hannah meeting, which supports the alternative suggestion of redistributing units across the whole city of Nanaimo. Thirdly, we're submitting a copy of a letter from Gary Galston, PhD, Hillberry Professor of Urban Affairs, regarding his study entitled The Impact of Supportive Housing on Neighborhood Crime Rates. Next, we submit an article by Nick Falvo, PhD candidate at Carleton University. In his article, Mr. Falvo lines up 2 approaches to housing the homeless, and he looks at both of them. And I believe you will find them very interesting. To recap briefly, we are opposed to the proposed facility because, number 1, the close proximity to several elementary schools, a private school, and a high school. Number 2, the close proximity of the proposed facility to seniors housing and the concentrated population of seniors within a few blocks and the elderly within our neighborhood. Number 3, we feel the proposal of 2 support workers for either 70 or 35 to 40 tenants would be inadequate. Number 4, all of the supportive types of housing and services we already have are enough, and one more project of this size could be detrimental to our neighborhood. Number 5, we are opposed due to a clear lack of neighborhood benefit. In conclusion, we are eager to break the cycle of homelessness and help people regain their independence through supportive housing projects. However, we do respectfully ask Council to respect our existing neighborhood and reduce the number of units down to 12 persons or less. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Boyd. I see at this point no questions from the... Yeah, I think, Cam, I wonder if we just ask you to give us some assistance here. Also, the timer is not operational, if you could assist in that. And having said that, Councillor Patchy, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. Good evening, Ms. Boyd.
Okay, Councillor Patchy, before I finish, I just want to, for clarification, just so you know on it, Ms. Boyd, that the number of residents in the area that was originally established at approximately 70 units has been reduced by 50% down to 35. Okay. This isn't a contest here. I'm just making a statement. Ms. Boyd, if you'd like to, just so you know, and now I'll turn it over to Councillor Patchy to make a comment.
Thank you very much. Ms. Boyd, as you know, Councillor Johnstone and I met with yourself and Mr. Goldsack, Mrs. Goldsack, and I believe the treasurer of your organization.
Thank you for your time at the meeting.
About a week and a half or 2 weeks ago. And to my mind, that was a very good meeting, because out of that, to me, came the fact that you obviously are very sincere about the worries and the ideas that you expressed to us. When I put that in context with what I heard on Thursday at the meeting that you organized at the Alliance Church, it became a bit of a different story, in that I came away with a distinct feeling that there was a certain amount of fear, that there was a certain amount of a lack of knowledge, for a better way of expressing it. And it kind of led me to believe that I really do believe that there is room for a further dialogue. For instance, one of the things that I heard was, the 24/7, and I don't think it was asked, nor was it explained very well, but in that context, I, for instance, would like to ask Mr. Horn now to express to us what kind of services will be given on premise during the daytime, by what organizations, so that, I need to get away from the fact that a lot of people seem to believe that this is just a place where people move in, and with supervision, albeit, but that the actual treatment that we are after is not going to be dispensed in a way that would give the additional services. So, Mr. Horn, maybe I can ask you to explain that at this point.
Certainly, through the Mayor to Councillor Patchy. The buildings themselves, under the funding agreement with BC Housing, will be staffed on a 24/7 basis. And those staff will reside in the building. They don't live in the building, but they will work in the building. And their brief will be to stay in the building and work in the building with the tenants there. Each project will be run by a nonprofit society as well. That nonprofit society will also bring to bear their resources. So, for example, if you're the John Howard Society, then you'll help those and assist those tenants in accessing John Howard Society programs and services. Additionally, of course, there's a number of other services. There's a wide range of services we fund in the city. The federal government, the provincial government fund in Nanaimo to deal with issues of addictions, rehabilitation, training, education, life skills, all those things. There's a considerable amount of programming that will be available to these clients. It won't be, we don't reinvent each and every program to put into the building. Those programs exist already, and clients will be supported to access those programs. In addition to that, the folks at the Vancouver Island Health Authority, the Mental Health and Addictions, they have made a commitment to support these individuals as well. Their brief is to work with people who have both a mental illness and an addiction, what they call a concurrent disorder, and their specialty will be focusing on those individuals in this building. So they'll bring to that VHA's resources clinical team to address those particularly complex needs. So the folks in the building will have a wide range of resources available to them. The staff in the building are one component of that, but there's a whole range of other supports and pieces in place as well.
Okay. Your Worship, if I may have one or two very short follow-ups. I would like to ask Ms. Boyd, or Mr. Goldsack for that matter, if you read the letter that was published this morning in the Daily News. It was a letter that was signed by Mr. Douglas Hardy, who is the president of the South End Community Association. I remember distinctly, because I attended, I was not on council in those days, but there was a meeting that was not unlike the one that you conducted on Thursday. And things have worked out rather well as far as the South End and the Balmoral is concerned. Now, I remember from our conversation with just the four of you present that you felt there was a distinct difference between the South End and the hospital area. But given the fact that Mr. Horn has now explained that there is a lot more supervision and a lot more going on in that house, in that apartment complex, than that what I thought people perceived it to be. Would you, well, I guess my question to you is, would you be willing to continue some sort of dialogue with the city so that we at least get some misconceptions cleaned up that were very apparent last Thursday night? For instance, not too many questions, if any, were asked of the VIA people who were there. The RCMP was really not involved. Canadian Mental Health got up once or twice to more respond to accusations rather than sincere questions. So I'm really interested in going a little bit further than what we have right now. We obviously need to listen to you, and a petition with 1,137 names on it is obviously not just to be taken for granted. We have to pay attention, but I just hope that all of us can go that little extra step right now to see what it is that we at least can agree upon that might happen or that might not happen. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes, we definitely want to work with the city on this. May I address some of the points that you made? You made several. I'm sorry, I didn't write them all down.
That's fine.
Okay, if you go back to the Memorandum of Understanding, point number 14, when Mr. Horn was talking about the different services that are available, my understanding is that according to the Memorandum of Understanding, the tenants will access these services either by going to the locations. So in other words, they're not always going to have these services come to them at this facility. They're going to be expected to either take the bus or walk or go to some of the services. So they're not all coming to them. There's what they call an ACT team, which would include a team for the 160 different people. They won't be there at the facility 24/7. It will be the two support people. And was there another question you wanted me to talk to
Please
or answer you? Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry?
Was there another one that you wanted me to answer to? I'm sorry.
She's asking for the question again.
The one, well, no, basically, the difference that was perceived to exist between the South End and the Balmoral Hotel and the hospital area and this proposed project. Maybe you can address that. Why do you believe that's different?
Well, if you look at the concentration of care homes that we have in our area, on the street where the Balmoral is, they do not have the concentration of care homes. They have more of a home situation along that road. We have a concentration, and I don't believe they have that. Also, the schools, we have 4 of them in the area within a few blocks, whereas they do not have that either.
Fair enough. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Kim.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to attend the meeting. I have attended what I call meetings on the social ills of our community. I understand your buffer zone theory, and I do believe it's important, too, to protect our children, but I also believe they have to see what society really has and exists. The elder facilities, I'm not certain. The statistical information that I have and comes forward to me is that these people, if they are involved in anything, they target their peers. And yes, there's crime, and just because that house is going, it doesn't mean there's never going to be crime. I do support the principle. For you, a study, I don't know if you're aware of, Streets to Homes, a Toronto-based study, where they actually took people off the street. Are you aware of that study? It was one of the models.
Not sure.
It's called Streets to Homes. You can search it on the web. It was hugely successful, taking thousands of people off the street with high success rate of recovery, of becoming a productive citizen, and that. So that's what the model started over 10 years ago with this.
May I
program.
ask what the demographic of people were in that study?
I believe it was they were a lot were concurrent illness, so addiction and mental illness, and they were street people on the streets, either abused at home, abused by an uncle or whatever, and they left their home. So a lot of it was that way, kids that were on the street and adults. Right? So it was very successful, but it's one to look at, and that's, I think, where we're modeled after. Your third point kind of scares me, and the fear of a wet house scares me. And your point was about people can come and go, they can do anything in their room, they can do whatever they want. I don't ever think government should enter the bedroom of any person. And I believe I would call my house, it's a wet house at a point, right? So I can do what I want in my house, and what this does for these people is it takes them off the street. It puts them into a place. So if you're so conservative and you don't want to see anything they do, then you don't have to see it anymore, and they're out of your view. They're not doing prostitution. They're not leaving their needles and their condoms around. They're more likely to do it in their little cave. Secondly, the financial benefit of housing these people. When they are on the street, every time there's a call, the police are involved. The fire department is involved. BC Ambulance is involved. Social workers are called out. They take that mess directly to the hospital. The statistical information, even from the RCMP's perspective, says that when neighborhoods take these things in, they actually improve a little. It's phenomenal. It's just statistics from our police force. These are the people that are on the street dealing with these people. So, and I understand the fear is absolutely real because we read about it daily in the paper, we hear this, but a congregationist services and not spreading this throughout our community. And John Howard said over 100 years ago, we create our criminals, we as a community need to deal with them. We create this addiction. These addicts come out of our schools. They come out of places. And that's why I support this type of program. I live in the area you talk about. I live right next to Phoenix House. I live in the hospital area. I'm in the most densely populated area of town, the Brecken area.
May I respond?
Absolutely.
Okay. We do have some studies to show you otherwise on what you have just said, and I hope you will read them.
I'm looking forward to reading it. Yeah.
Councillor. All right. Councillor Oldham. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to ask if John could give us an estimate. I know it would be a pretty rough estimate, but what percentage of the residents in these projects are expected to be afflicted with drug addiction?
It would be unfair of me to try to answer that question. With all due respect, I would ask the VHA folks, the ones who work directly on the coalface, so to speak, with that population. It's drugs are involved in most people who are on the streets, and whether it's a cause or an effect of being on the streets is difficult to tell. I know that a lot of people with mental illness, when they're out on the streets, they use drugs to self-medicate. When they get back on their medications, they don't use them anymore. So it's difficult to tell, sir. And with all respect, VHA are the experts in this, and I would ask them to speak to it. One thing that we do know about these projects, the intent is to blend each of these buildings, so there's a range of people in the building with a range of needs. They're not all going to be there because they're addicted or all there because they're mentally ill. Some of them will be there for poverty reasons, others for depression, various types of psychiatric illnesses, etc. So all I can say is we have a number of projects across the city. The population in each one of these buildings, the residents, will be a mix of residents with a mix of needs. So I'm sorry I can't give you a stat on that, but I would defer to my colleagues at VHA who are the experts.
Okay, I guess my reason for asking is that, as you understand, of course, that the primary target here are homeless people. They may or may not have various addictions and other issues, as well as poverty, but that is the primary focus. So it's mainly a point, really, more than a question, but I know you understand that.
Okay. May I respond?
Sure.
Okay. In the BC Housing, 160 new housing units for Nanaimo and homeless, I noticed that on 1598 Townside Road, it makes a specific point of mentioning that this site may be suitable for tenants with mental health and addiction issues. It doesn't mention that for all of the other different facilities that are going up. It would appear that under our understanding is that the focus of this particular subgroup of homeless will be housed in our area.
Okay, but that does lead to a question. Why do you think they would have said that?
Why? I don't know. I actually asked. I'm not sure why.
Yes.
The only thing I can think of is maybe because of the hospital. And I would like to suggest to you that if there's an emergency, they cannot carry the people across the road. They would have to call 911 anyway. So to me, that would be a bit of a moot point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Johnstone.
Thank you, Your Worship. It was a privilege to be in the auditorium at the church the other night and listen to the people. I was impressed with a lot of the thought that went into the presentations. the primary focus of the people there was fear. Fear, I think, of the unknown, fear of what might happen to their neighborhoods. Gwen, could you tell me, do you agree that people that are on the street and homeless without a roof over their heads would never get well? May never get well, but they just would continue to fall further and further into their depressions, into their illness?
If I may respond to that then, is I feel that there is a different alternative than what the city is proposing that would work quite well. I don't think there's a magic bullet, but I think rather than concentrating the services in one area, that's putting them throughout in less than 12 units per building would make it much easier on not only the people themselves, because it would feel less institutional, but it would also be much easier for a neighborhood to absorb and probably less fearful.
I think it's unfortunate that we chose the word wet house. The connotation of it it doesn't. Low barrier housing is what it primarily is low barrier housing, and I just feel that, if it doesn't go into your neighborhood, it has to go someplace. We're trying to phase it right across the city, in all parts of our city, in all parts of our community. At any rate, John, if I might, Your Worship, ask a question of John. If the fear of the neighborhood is such, and it is, it's obvious, they're afraid of what might become of their neighborhood and the safety of their children and their elderly people. If we built a facility there, could we slowly phase people in, say 12 at a time, until we... Is it a possibility?
No. All right, listen up now, listen up. So there's an answer coming. Go ahead.
What I would do is, we have partners in these proposals. So the city plays a role, the provincial government plays a role, and the nonprofit sector plays a role. And so our expertise as a local government is not in the clinical face, the work at the coal face, so to speak. So in that sense, I would expect that BC Housing, VHA, and the nonprofit work together to bring these buildings online in the manner that's going to be the best for all concerned. So I wouldn't want to preempt that premise, that process, because that's the experts will tackle that. And I would suggest that the experience shows that you staff it up, you begin to integrate tenants into the building on a slow basis so that you can begin to incorporate people individually as they come into the building. Would not wish to speak for them in this regard, but that has been the practice in other buildings, that you bring people in one at a time, you integrate them into the building, and then you bring the next one in one at a time. And that's the usual process, and we'll recommend that process to our partners. But again, they're the clinicians and they're the experts, and we wouldn't wish to preclude anything they want to say. So,
thank you.
May I make a comment? I would like you to know that I have been on the telephone to Rich Coleman's office to ask him if there's a minimum amount of units that you have to have in a building. So maybe there is a possibility that with the current funding, you may be able to work with smaller buildings throughout Nanaimo as an alternative to what you're suggesting.
Thank you.
And where would they be located?
I'm sorry?
Where would they be located? You said smaller buildings.
I'm not a planner, I'm sorry, but okay. I think there are alternatives.
Because that's the challenge we have.
Yes,
I mean, we know the problem and we know the need. It's a matter of location and trying to do something that's fair and equitable for our community. And it's not really fair just to isolate the downtown core as the only source. And what we're trying to do as a community is to have, let me speak, okay? That what we want to do is try to have these homes throughout the community so that it's not isolated in a particular area.
May I make a comment to that?
Sure you can.
Thank you. If you were to look at the area at 1598 Townsite Road, the original plan was for 70 units, 2 35-unit apartment buildings. And then a hop, skip, and a jump, you have units going up on Bowen Road across from Quarterway. So in a small span of maybe 2, maybe 3 blocks, you would have 100 units. To me, I question the disbursement throughout the city. Respectfully.
Okay. Councillor, okay, that's enough. Councillor Bestwick. You made your point. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you to the delegation. At the onset of the presentation, the delegation indicated that the Chinese community, and this is a question to staff, donated the property for specific designated uses. Is there any information that you can share if there's covenants or if in fact this property does fit into any of that criteria that was mentioned?
Councillor Bestwick, yes, the Chinese community is aware of the project as is proposed.
I wonder if the I'm not debating whether or not the Chinese community is aware of the project as proposed, but I'm curious as to whether or not the property in its designation, when it was gifted, had any conditions on it. So the Bevan Park property was gifted for recreational purposes, and which would suggest that it wouldn't be for subdivision or development or high-rises or otherwise. So my question is, going back to my original question, was this property donated by the Chinese community for specific purposes with or without covenants attached?
Yes, it was, and maybe you know more than I do, but this was donated with restrictions for housing on it. I'm not aware of the specifics of it, but we could find that out for you.
I would ask then that if there is the ability to do that, I think that it would behoove us if we chose not to do that. I think we should investigate.
Okay, that Councillor Kipp.
Oh, yeah, just one question, and I know this is it's not bad parenting asking a question. I hope you'll answer the way I want. This is a facility. This is a facility that's going to house people and will have staff. Obviously, it sounds like you would even like a higher level of staff involved. But my concern currently is that those kids, people, adults are on the street now. They're living in basement suites, which there's a ton of them in our area. They're living in apartments. They're unsupervised. They are spread throughout the community, and as they're living now in dumpsters or wherever they're living, do you think that's a better and a less fearful situation than them having a place to walk into and the guy might go, hey, wait a sec, you're stinking of booze? So do you think that...
Well, if you read our resolution, it states that we think that there should be a real genuine effort at counseling and rehabilitation, and it should be subject to all neighborhoods being involved in a conversation about it.
This has been talked about since the 1996 OCP, and there's been a new draft of the OCP that mentions this same type of housing. I mean, I know I have worked on halfway houses in 1994, and it's the same issues. So I know they're there, and I guess we don't do a good enough job of educating. And that's our thing. Thank you.
I'm sorry, are you wanting me to reply? I'm not sure.
What's your feeling? Is it better to have it the way it is now, or for us to take care of these people?
Well, I do know, according to a lady who got up and spoke at our meeting, that there are empty beds at the Columbia Center Society houses, so perhaps we can put some people there and help them. I'm not sure.
They deal with mental illness.
Yeah.
But I guess the other side, some homeless people don't like to go to certain facilities too.
That's true. It is true.
They're human.
Yeah, that's true.
Even though they're poor, they're human.
It is very true.
Okay, Councillor Holdham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just reading through your resolution. And it appears that the opposition, it says, the association is opposed because it will inevitably lead to an increase in crime and urban blight.
Yes, according to some of the research that we have discovered, yes.
Some research, okay, so obviously, this is a provincial program that we're participating in. We're not doing this by ourselves.
No, I understand.
And the experience, at least, has led us to believe that precisely the opposite is true, that it actually leads to a decrease in crime and urban blight. That's the whole point of it. If it didn't do that, this project wouldn't be coming forward. I think it's more than just a matter of belief, but if that's your belief, that it leads to it, I can understand your motion. It's just that I think that's a mistake.
I have submitted, and I will actually, I actually still have them here, but I do have some submissions of research to show you otherwise.
Okay,
it would appear that some of the research that people have been looking at, especially Vancouver, from my understanding, is that they looked at research regarding small group homes. Some of the facilities in Toronto were specifically for people who were just alcoholics, and they had alcohol management given to them as a treatment. So I think that it's a possibility, and I would urge you to look into it, that it may be that we're overreaching with the research that we have garnered from years ago and bringing that forward to this philosophy that we have for this subgroup of homeless. I'm not saying it's not going to work for everybody, but it would appear that this subgroup, they are taking research and taking it and overreaching.
Okay, well, we have experience right within our own community, of course. And I wonder if the staff, Mr. Horn, could review our experience and the experience of other BC municipalities that have adopted this program.
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Councillor Holdham. Certainly we talk with a lot of other cities in preparing this initiative and researching this, and we look at similar-sized cities to get a similar sort of demographic profile, and in our province, that's typically Kamloops, Kelowna, Prince George, and Whitehorse. If that's not in British Columbia, it's roughly the same dynamics. So when we talk to those cities who are similar to us in the way they're made up and the extent of their homeless problem, they're all taking this approach. Some of them have implemented this already. Kelowna is quite far ahead of us. Kamloops has been doing this for years. Some communities, Prince George and others, are behind us in this, but this is based on what other cities in British Columbia, they're all doing the same thing, the Housing First approach. Their projects are identical in size to the ones that we're proposing. So Kelowna, Kamloops, Prince George, the ones that they're building and have built are very similar in size and structure and the same MOU funding stream, and so they're very similar, and we've borrowed heavily from their experiences in this. And universally what those cities are saying is that this works, this is a solution that's viable, and that this is the only way forward that they see as being the way to end homelessness as opposed to just managing it.
So we haven't run into any evidence that suggests that these projects inevitably lead to an increase in crime and urban blight, have we?
No, but I'd be happy to look at any evidence brought forward by anyone, really, because we should have an open mind about all these things. So yes. Evidence, there's a lot of documentation about this, a lot of written and a lot of, so we'll look at it all. And at the end of the day, you sort of have to balance it all out because you'll have 1,000 reports and they'll say 400 different things. So you do have to look at the preponderance of evidence as opposed to any specific study. And that's been the approach to date, is add it all together and see what it says.
Yes, thank you. So my question would be then, if we look, if you are asking us, as you are, to have an open mind, look at the evidence you have, can I ask if you will have an open mind too and look at the evidence we have, particularly concerning this cause for your motion, which is that it's inevitable.
For the resolution?
Yeah. So would your association, do you believe, be willing to have an open mind on the experience that others have had?
Well, if you've seen all the research that we've read in the last few months, we haven't had very long to research this at all. And you have, from my understanding, from 2008, have had quite a long time.
That's why we're doing it,
So we have been digging and digging until the wee hours of the morning and have read quite a bit, but we will look at whatever we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I might just point out, we've got a couple of other questions from other councillors, but I just might point out that I don't know if you had a chance to read the letter in today's paper from Douglas Hardy. He was the...
I have not, I'm sorry.
Okay,
no.
But what he basically said was, and I'm just paraphrasing here, but when the Balmoral was going to be developed as a low-barrier housing development on Halliburton Street, the residents were very, very concerned, and there was a huge amount of opposition, and of course some of them came before council and voiced their concern. But what he found in the letter in today's paper, we'll attest to this, was that the community worked with the city, tried to mitigate the concerns that they had, tried to find out exactly what was happening at that location, and the end result seems to be that the community is better for having it there. And we had the RCMP in this morning speaking to us at City Council, and they said that now Halliburton Street does not have anywhere near the issues they had, and certainly the Balmoral, which in the past has had a lot of challenges, is really something that they are pleased with, and I know the South End Association is very proud of. So it's not all negative, but I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm sympathetic. I understand the concerns you have and your neighbors have, and it's certainly realistic. Councillor Sherry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, when you've made your opening remarks that you wanted to see these facilities spread throughout the community, not just in a designated area, well, it's my understanding right now there's one being developed in conjunction with the First Nations on 10th Street. There's the Halliburton Street complex there. Very shortly, there'll be, I guess, a turning of the sod on Wesley Street, which is another one. Now, in your particular area, we're talking about, I'll call it the Quarterway, and we'll call it the hospital. Now, through you to staff, which is number one to be developed between those, and when might construction proceed on either of those?
Mr. Horn.
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Council. The Bowen Road project, which is at the Quarterway Bridge, is going to be subject to the road widening and the bridge building that's taking place on that site. So that project will probably start later than the others because we have to work around those two major infrastructure projects that are happening on the same site. So it's anticipated that we would have a architect and a builder and a nonprofit society for each of these projects in the next 2 to 2.5 months. It takes about 6 to 8 months to design one of these buildings, architectural blueprints, and make building permit application, etc. It takes about 8 months to build one of these projects. So in the minimum time frame, if you have a lot that's ready to move, you took about 20 months to see a finished building on the site. In the case of these two projects, I would suggest that the hospital one, the one that's on Dufferin and Boundary, is more, it'll be easier to move forward on that one than it will on Bowen Road, and strictly because of the bridge building. So that's going to throw a little bit of a wrench in the project. So timing will be longer on the Bowen Road because we have to work around the road and the bridge widening, etc. So 18 to 20 months is a pretty realistic figure for from commencement to completion for one of these projects.
Okay, the other project that my understanding is the provincial has its own property in the Wellington area, which is a separate issue from what we're dealing with. And then we're also talking about one in the north end of the community in, I'll say, the Hammond Bay, Dover Bay area out there as well. So that's more or less covers the spectrum of the total community. When this one here, as I say, I have grave concerns when that first started being 70 units, where the other ones are on the average 30 to 35 area. Why are we concentrating on there? But my understanding is now that we are maximizing 30 units. Is that correct?
35?
I'll use the number 35 to 40, sir, because it depends a bit on the design, but 35 units will be the number to work from.
Okay, so that's spreading it out there because of those. Okay. I guess I can sympathize because of all the other services that are already supported in the neighborhood. And it's the dilemma that you're in is that you're assisting the provincial government, be it the government itself or VIA, in who's supposed to be the providers of the service for these, and we're left with, okay, the city happens to be the owner of the property that's these facilities can be accommodated. And because of the timetable, why I asked about the timetable here with staff as to how far we can go, and just listening to Councillor Paggi and Johnson and the discussion, the feedback from your meeting the other day, I think it's important that in order to bring more knowledge and better understanding, that there should be meetings with your organization and the providers of the service so that you can ask the pointed questions on the 24 hours, because when you you ask a question and you wonder where they're coming from with the question, it's a lot easier to say, well, I'd like you to repeat so I can understand what it is. So I would hope that your organization would be in touch with Mr. Horn to arrange further meetings to try to resolve some of the discrepancies and making it a leveler playing field as it relates to the service in your area.
Okay, Councillor Paggi.
Thank you, Worship. Just a final comment more than anything else. Councillor Holdham already alluded to some of the sentences in this resolution, and I have to be honest with you, I have a bit of a problem as well, particularly where it states the inevitability of an increase in crime and urban blight. The experience that we've had in Nanaimo so far just does not support that. So that's a bit problematic. The other point, when you talk about desiring many more but smaller family-like homes, I think you refer to that. I can tell you for a fact that, say, for instance, the John Howard Society, and you can ask Franz Tellier, the executive director, they also have pretty serious problems placing those people or getting permission from the neighborhood to have those houses in the first place. So that's not really something that might go away as much as we would like it to be. That still is the fact. Now, the very last thing I'll ask you, I want you to just imagine for a minute that you sit in this seat and that you're a councillor of the city of Nanaimo, and we have 160 chronic homeless people, with the emphasis on homeless, never mind the other baggage that they have. And we have a chance, with the help of many millions of dollars of the provincial government, to do something constructive about that. Just saying that you don't want it in your neighborhood, though as much as I understand it, from a council point of view, I hope you understand, or at least have some feeling, that we also are a bit between a rock and a hard place at this point, and that we do wish the best outcome for everyone concerned. And when I see a resolution like this one, which really does have, in my opinion, some misconceptions, I just want to ask you again, and you can say yes again if you like, please talk to us some more. Let's have more of a dialogue. Let's have some more education and see where this leads. As Mr. Horn alluded to, this thing isn't going to be built overnight. We have plenty of time to talk, and so we should. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paggi. Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been involved in this particular project, I think it's close to 3 years, going back when we did our initial housing strategy for Nanaimo for homelessness, and hearing of the experiences in Nanaimo already on the improvements that it creates, I am still not sold on the idea of transplanting people to another area. These people who are homeless have their friends in certain areas of the city. They have almost a tribal or herd mentality. They like to stick together. And if we have them transporting on foot or whatever way from that area to the area where most of them are congregating now, I don't think solves anything by putting them into areas where they don't probably even want to be. But saying that, when you said you had had very little time to work on this, I said I'd been in this for almost 3 years, but more than 2 years ago, I went in the newspapers and in the radio and told everybody, this is coming to a neighborhood near you, and we named the areas where they were going, and not a peep was heard. And that was what really concerned me, and I went back to the media and asked them again to print the concept that this is coming through all parts of the city, and still we got no responses. And also this year, when first the flyers were delivered to all the homes in the area, there was not a very hard response or a large response from the people in the area. I talked to...
All right, hold it up.
I talked to a number of people, and some of them said, oh, I didn't pay attention to it. Now, this is a serious problem for me, because when you have this coming right at you, and nobody pays attention till 2 years later, when all of a sudden an agreement has been signed with the provincial government, and the agreement is in place with the Vancouver Island Health Authority, and now this comes up. And like I said, I'm not sold on this idea of transplanting people to all areas of the city, and it causes me real great problems.
Okay.
I'm sorry, were you wanting me to respond?
No.
Okay, Councillor Bestwick.
Okay.
No, this is Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just another question to staff. Councillor Patchy respectfully indicated that there's still plenty of time to talk to this issue, or to talk to this location, I suspect. Is in fact talk past us, the opportunity to discuss the operations or the size or the complexity of the proposed initiative likely?
Discussion at this point, unless staff are directed otherwise, is based on the assumption that it is proceeding and that making it work better. But right now, the direction that we have is that it is proceeding.
That was my point precisely. Thank you.
Okay. Good. I see no further questions on that now. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Goldson. Seconder? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The next delegation is Mr. Mike Gogo. Mr. Gogo,
Like that?
If you, yeah. And we just need your name and address, Mike, we need the name and address for the file, please. I think everyone knows you, but it's for the record.
Mike Gogo, 2625 South Oaks Road, now BC. I came here tonight, maybe a little bit of a misapprehension. I supported strongly Covenant House in Vancouver. Are you familiar with Covenant House? Well, it's a wonderful place, and there's how many hundreds and hundreds of teenagers just absolutely destitute, been beaten, raped, and nowhere to go. And there's a nun there, and it takes everybody in. And I've heavily supported them financially for years. And I'm thinking, what am I doing in Nanaimo? What am I doing for the people here? And I appreciate every concern. I've got 9 grandchildren in this area. Concern and respect all the hours that this delegation in front of me put in entirely. All I'm saying is that I understand there's going to be a building built near property I own, in the Courtaway area. I, as a property owner there, have no objection to it. And then I'd like the city to consider, if they put in something, make it practical, I can supply that place for free for the first year with dry firewood for free. And while they're there, they might as well be putting a little log on the fire. And I have no objection against the people there coming in there. And we have to be responsible. Tim Landers, saintly man, in my opinion, he said it. The only reason I'm doing this is the government isn't doing their job. Well, now they are, and I appreciate the significance of that gesture. And, you know, we have to take care of these people. It's a moral and it's probably a legal obligation. And the last thing I'll say is Councilman Unger, that was a shameless display of vote gathering at the expense of the poor and the disabled.
Thank you, Mr. Gogol.
Move receipt of the delegation.
Seconder?
Thank you very much.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We'll go back to the agenda items now, and we're down into proclamations. We haven't done those yet. Proclamations that I thought we had, didn't we? Thank you. Have that man flagged. Okay. It's the report on the public hearing held Thursday, 2010, October 7 for bylaws 4,000. Let's just have one meeting going here. 4,000.485, 4,000.486, 4,000.487, 491, and 399. Staff recommendation that council receive the report in the minutes of the public hearing.
Move receipt of the staff.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Road closure, a portion of Labio Road, bylaw number 7116. Staff recommendation that Council 1 receive the report pertaining to the highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2010 number 7116, which is presented in the bylaw section of this agenda. And 2, direct staff to proceed with the public notice for the partial road closure of Labio Road.
Move recommendations 1 and 2.
Moved 1 and 2, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. DVP 159, 9 Nickel Street. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to DVP 159. Staff recommendation that council issue development variance permit number DVP 159 at 9 Nickel Street. Is there, just a minute. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to matters related to that DVP 159? Welcome, sir. We just need your name, address, and affiliation.
I'm just here to answer any questions that you might have in regard to this variance. But one thing I'd like to mention is the existing zoning bylaws and in regard to zoning bylaws, signage bylaws are very, very restrictive in the city of Nanaimo in regard to this type of signage. And over the years, around construction sites, for instance, is a safety issue. It's a Workmen's Compensation Board requires protective fencing around construction sites, mainly protection of the public. And over the years, these construction fencing, or hoarding, you might call for construction sites, I mean, pretty ugly looking. I have a couple of quick shots here that I'd like to just sort of flip up if I could. Okay. Give me the first one. This is one downtown, which is basically just has a. You'll see there it's fencing, wire fencing. And there's basically signage which is kind of slapped on that fencing, bits and pieces around it. And this is normally what happens or has in the past for most construction sites. You maybe flip out the next one. This is another one here where you get a start of a construction site and you got basically the wire fencing around the site. Now there's been, do you have the next one? Same thing in this sort of situation here where you have a solid plywood hoarding on the upper one, and again chain link fencing down below. Now what's been happening is most municipalities now have been allowing a much improved signage, but you know what is called signage is lifestyle images and such. Your sign bylaw is controlling the size of the signage based on whatever is put up on the fence, whether it's a sign, it's got lettering on it, it designates anything specific. So if you'll see, the next shot here is in downtown Vancouver. It's a 3-story building. It has lifestyle images up on it. And instead of that plywood hoarding and that type of thing, this is the kind of thing that you get. And most municipalities now are actually promoting the use of this type of signage because it's up for quite some period of time.
I just want to ask, this DVP 159 at 9 Nickel Street, is this all dealing with that particular site?
No. These are just examples.
Well, the thing is, in the interest of time, we're really only interested in DVP 159 at 9 Nickel Street because we've got a lot of other issues tonight on the agenda. If you want to speak to that matter, we're here to listen, and if it's something not related to that, we do have to move along.
Okay. Well, maybe we can just flip through to the very end, last one there.
Well, let's just hear the end, and then we'll move it along.
This is the signage that we're proposing, which has a small portion, which is the signage itself, and then they have architectural renderings showing the complex and how it's going to be developed over a period of time. And it would be up for a duration that the Workmen's Compensation Board requires as far as the security fencing is concerned, which would be anywhere from 6 months to a year.
Okay, as long as it's consistent. Does staff have a comment?
We're in support of this, Your Worship.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Anyone else would like to speak to matters related to DVP 159 at 9 Nickel Street?
Move the staff recommendation as it relates to this development permit.
Seconder, moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're going into subdivision approval, cash in lieu, 2256 Meredith Road, subdivision 008842. Staff recommendation that council approve the payment of cash in lieu of park for the fee simple subdivision of lands as described below as Lot A, Section 17, Range 7, Mountain District, Plan 31449, civic address is 2256 Meredith Road. Is there anyone in attendance that would like to speak to that matter? Seeing none.
Move the staff recommendation.
Move and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We're going into subdivision approval, park and cash in lieu 5040 Hammond Bay Road. Staff recommendation that council approve the payment of cash in lieu of park for the fee simple subdivision of lands as described below. Lot 10 District, Lot 54 Wellington District, Plan 17543. Civic address is 5040 Hammond Bay Road. Anyone in attendance? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Moving down to unsightly premises, 620 Sterling Avenue. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to unsightly premises at 620 Sterling Avenue. Is there anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters at 620 Sterling Avenue? Seeing none.
Move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Unresolved building deficiencies, notice on title section 5.7. It's requested that council hear anyone wishing to speak with respect to the unresolved building deficiencies or illegal suites for the properties listed below. And I'll just name them off. Number 1, 344 Bruce Avenue, illegal construction, alter basement to include a secondary suite. Is there anyone in attendance from 344 Bruce Avenue or would like to speak to that matter? Second property is 2120 Dugan Road, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance from 2120 Dugan Road? The third one is 2267 Jinglepot Road, illegal construction, enclosed attached carport and altar basement to include 2 secondary suites. Anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 2267 Jinglepot Road? The fourth, 5363 Colburn Drive, illegal construction, finished basement to include a secondary suite. Anyone in attendance who would like to speak to matters related to 5363 Colburn Drive? And the final one, number 5, 2674 Beaver Creek Crescent, illegal construction, attached garage, shed addition and deck. Anyone here that would like to speak to matters related to 674 Beaver Creek Crescent? Moved and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Community Services, hotel feasibility update. Staff recommendation that council authorize staff to hire PFK Consulting for up to $19,000 to include the hotel feasibility survey. Feasibility study rather, prepared by PFK Consulting in 2004. Move the recommendation. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bestrick opposed. Councillor Kipp opposed. Balance of council in favor. The motion passes. We'll move into information only items.
Move receipt.
Seconder? Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Reconsideration of bylaws to be moved by Councillor Unger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2006 number 4000.399 to add additional requirements for the siting of heat pumps and central air conditioning units be given third reading.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Councillor Unger. You had none?
Nope.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.478 RA 243 part of 953 Park Avenue to rezone part of the subject property from single-family residential zone RS1 to residential duplex zone RM1 to include 2 duplex lots within an approved subdivision development be adopted.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.485 to add the residential corridor zone RM12 be given third reading.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, I will be supporting the creation of the RM12 zone, which is before us this evening as it relates here, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I see no further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.486 RA 250 to rezone part of 6414 Portsmouth Road from single-family residential zone RS1 to residential corridor zone RM12 in order to facilitate subdivision and development of multifamily dwellings be given third reading.
Seconder? Moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I too supported the RM12 residential corridor zone for the city of Nanaimo, site specifically as it relates to this particular reading. I will not be supporting the Portsmouth Road as a designated corridor.
Thank you. Councillor Sherry.
Similar, Mr. Chairman, we're looking at the zone in the corridor area. And when I think of corridors, I think these are the major streets throughout our community and the properties that front onto those streets. I don't see in this particular case where Portsmouth is a major street within our community, and therefore I can't support the rezoning of this property because I don't feel that this property fits in a position on this particular road.
Okay, and Councillor Patchy.
A question to, I'll ask staff for an explanation. Mr. Tucker, if I may. The intent of RM12, is it not, is to combine this kind of infill intensification not only in a corridor but also in this particular instance with light commercial, light industrial, whatever the case may be. Portsmouth is maybe one or the other, but would you just elaborate on that for me for a minute?
When we were going through the official community plan review process, there was a lot of discussion in neighborhoods about infill at higher densities occurring in neighborhoods. So the desire was to put the higher density on the edge of neighborhoods. And so the corridor designation in the official community plan was created. And Cam, if you could put up that slide of... so there are large areas of the city that are designated under the official community plan for corridor, which are the yellow areas on the map. That is, and you'll see that the corridor areas, while they may be adjacent to major arterials in some instances, in other instances they're adjacent to what are called the urban nodes. The urban nodes are the highest density permitted under the official community plan. The corridor corridors are the next highest level of density, and then the neighborhoods are primarily single family. So you'll find the corridor designation around the urban nodes as well as along the corridors, along the arterial roadways.
Would you concur then that Portsmouth Road is in close proximity to a node, an urban node?
Cam, could you go to the other slide, please? No, that one. In this is a more detailed shot. This is the area around Woodgrove Shopping Centre. Woodgrove Shopping Centre and the areas in the north end, which is the urban node, is the brown on this slide. And wrapping around it is the corridor designation, which is the next area, next density level down. So although Portsmouth itself is not an arterial road, it's adjacent to the urban node, and it's to provide a transition from highest density in the node, next lower density in the corridor, and then the neighborhood designation.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. And Your Worship, it's exactly for that reason that I shall be able to support this.
Okay. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, Your Worship. So I'm understanding that the map that's in front of us now that identifies the property is on Portsmouth, that this is part of an urban node designation rather than a corridor designation. Is that right?
No, Councillor Oldham. The urban node designation is the brown, and the subject property is outlined in red, and it's in the dark yellow, which is the corridor designation.
Okay, the corridor involved here then is Dover Road, right?
The corridor in this instance is the area wrapping around the urban node.
Could you be a little bit more specific on which roads are when you're talking about the nodes?
Well, the urban node for what's called the Woodgrove urban node includes the area of Woodgrove Shopping Centre, the commercial and light industrial area where Costco and, Nanaimo Dodge Plymouth is located, Chrysler is located. It includes the townhouse developments along McRobb. It includes the ICBC area. So it's quite an extensive urban node, which allows for redevelopment to very high density. And then around it is the corridor designation, which is to allow redevelopment to the next highest. So multifamily is what would be permitted in the corridor zone.
Okay, Your Worship, but I guess I just want to see if I've got this straight. I thought the corridor designation was always attached to an arterial road, which was the corridor. That's why it was called a corridor. So that the higher density would run along that corridor. The only corridor road I can see here, or at least arterial route, would appear to be Dover Road. I guess I'm having some difficulty in jumping into the middle of this corridor designation rather than or at least encouraging applications along the corridor. But that wasn't really my question. Anyway, my question is, why was the about to be enacted RM12 chosen for this site rather than one of the existing multifamily site zones?
The RM12 is, as Council is aware, we're currently revising the zoning bylaw, and we are developing zones for the corridor designation so that the new zoning bylaw will be in conformity and compliance with the official community plan. The difficulty occurred where we had applications before us, but there was not a residential corridor zone created. So because the overall rewrite is not yet ready to go ahead, we moved ahead with the creation of the individual residential corridor zone.
Yes, but is there some reason why we couldn't have used an existing RM3 or 4, so some zone that we already have here in this case?
In the corridor, what we're seeking to create through redevelopment is a more urban streetscape. And so, for example, in the corridor zone, there are build two lines rather than minimum setback distances. A build two line moves the building forward on the site, and parking would be at the rear of the building, for example. Our existing zones aren't structured that way, so this is to try and move the zoning bylaw into conformity with the official community plan.
I was asking those questions, Your Worship, because I find the design that is proposed for the site, not the use, but the design, fails in many respects for me. If the only reason of using RM12 was to increase density and increase footprint on the property, then that's too bad. We should have encouraged reduced density on this site in an older zone so that the arrangement of the buildings could occur in a more effective way, I would say. I can't support it because of the way the buildings are proposed to be built on the property.
Thank you. Councillor Bestwick.
Thank you, Worship. Just with this particular slide, then, and further to Councillor Holden's question, is it reasonable to assume that Dover Road is also a corridor designation, residential corridor zone designation?
Your Worship, in this particular case, what Mr. Tucker was trying to explain is that because of the major urban node that we have in Woodgrove, and this corridor that was decided to be designated wraps around the major urban node. So there's all of those roads act as major roads in their own right. They all service the commercial interaction between Dover Road, Uplands Drive, Applecross, and the Island Highway. So they're all major roads in their own right. There was no way to define one as the corridor. This decision was that it wraps around the node itself.
So Dover Road is a
Dover Road is definitely a major road, is Uplands, all the roads that I've noted that are on the slide there.
So is Dover Road, the part that's yellow, corridor zone designation or not?
All of the yellow is currently designated as corridor in the official community plan.
So
Dark
therefore, that section of Dover Road is
only Your Worship the wrong side of it.
All of the dark yellow.
So fair. So that's my question. So it is then, by color definition, for developers or property owners to understand that then is residential corridor RM12.
No, it's designated in UOCP, which is different than zoning. When you implement the zoning, if it does pass the RM12, that would only apply to the site-specific properties that come forward by application.
Right. So it would only come forward because it was if it was passed, it would only come forward if it does pass. And then if it does pass, the people along Dover Road would have the ability to ask for.
Your Worship, let me try. In the OCP, they already have that right, because in the OCP, which was adopted some years ago, that was designated as a corridor development area. What this RM12 zone does is puts it, if council approves it, it goes on the shelf, and if somebody in that area wants to do a development that fits that zone, staff will recommend that it come off the shelf and be used for that application. But the creation of the zone does not change the rights of the people in that yellow area. They already are designated in the OCP as a potential corridor area for development. Only potential, though, and the reality of it has to come through a site-specific zone.
Okay.
Sure.
Councillor Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, here we go again. Here we see this map here, which I don't recall at the public hearing seeing a map like that. And there was a question of the residents immediately to the north of the application asking about could they do that zone. And my understanding was that it was outside the area, that we were only talking about Portsmouth across there. Now, we're sending a message to the general public, and what are we doing? Because you say that you got the corridor zone and it related to all across the community, and when the corridor zone was instituted, was there general discussion and explanation as to what was being included? Because I can tell you that because you got Dover Road, as far as I'm concerned, is a major road, and the property to the north of this, on the north side of there, why isn't that designated a corridor zone? Because it's part of the major corridor. So we're mixing apples and oranges as far as I'm concerned here, and the general public, I think we need to do a better explanation job to them, and I need to get a refresher course on myself on what's here as well, because as far as I was concerned, it wasn't presented as this at the public hearing.
Who wants to, anyone on council, on staff rather want to?
Well, Your Worship, staff don't have any argument with the comments Councillor Sherry made, other than to point out that these consultation and decisions were made several years ago when the OCP was prepared. And we're not saying it's good or bad, we're just saying it is. And so that's just the playing field that we have, and that those were designated in that OCP several years ago as potential for use as higher density than they had been before. That's all.
When I hear the comment that we didn't have a zone for the RM12, and we're going to decide that we're going to create a new corridor zone so that we can put the RM12 into this issue, you know, and that was discussed at a committee of council, which all members of council were not in attendance, and then it comes back, and I don't recall any special notification of the council from that committee or from staff as it relates to this issue going into this thing, so that, or brought to our attention that here's the little red flag that you might just want to take a look at before we get too far down the road on this thing.
Okay, I see no further questions on that. It's been moved and seconded. So all those in favor of the motion? We have 1, 2, 3 opposed. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. So maybe we can have. Sorry. Okay, let's get the hands up again then. Those in favor of the motion, we have Councillor Kipp, Councillor Patchy, Councillor Johnston in favor. Those opposed, Mayor Tan, Councillor Besser, Councillor Sherry, Councillor Oldham, Councillor Unger. The motion is defeated.
Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.487. My microphone isn't on.
Sorry.
Okay, it is now. Thank you. Move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.487 RA 251 to rezone 561 Cadogan Street from single-family residential zone RS1 to single-family small lot zone RS6 in order to facilitate subdivision of the land be given third reading.
I think that might also be known as Cadogan, but I'm not sure on that. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Today it's Cadogan. I move that zoning amendment bylaw 2010 number 4000.491 RA 242 to rezone 440 Wakasaya Avenue from single-family residential zone RS1 to residential corridor zone RM12 in order to allow for a student housing development be given third reading.
Moved and seconded. Councillor Sherry.
Mr. Chairman, this application is on a major road, a corridor road, and it's fronting right onto the street, and I can support this application because it deals with the property in question.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? It carries unanimously. Okay. Go ahead.
I move that Licensing and Control of Animals Amendment Bylaw 2010 number 4923.07 to amend the bylaw with respect to deer and feral rabbits be adopted.
Moved and seconded. I see, Councillor Sherry, did you have anything on that? So, Councillor Petrie, do you have anything? Okay, so I see no questions then. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Introduction of bylaws.
I move that highway closure and dedication removal bylaw 2010 number 7116 for the partial road closure of Labio Road be given first reading.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
I move that highway closure and dedication removal bylaw number 2010 number 7116 be given second reading.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And introduction of development bylaws.
Cadogan.
And
move receipt of the correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All those in favor? Going into correspondence itself, we have a letter dated 2010 September 30 from Rosemary Bonanno, Executive Director, Vancouver Island Regional Library, regarding the Council's appointment to the 2011 Vancouver Island Regional Library. And maybe we just have a motion to receive the correspondence, and I have a point I'd like to make. So, and second, I'd like to suggest that Councillor Holdham be reappointed to the Vancouver Island Regional Library. A very... read? Sorry?
Can he read?
Can he read? Is that a requirement? Anyway, I'd just like to say that Councillor Holdham has been involved for quite some time with the Regional Library, and I think has done an outstanding job and enjoys a very high degree of respect from that organization, and we're very pleased that he has again consented to represent Nanaimo there.
And he's their chairman.
Well, I don't know if he will. It depends on the election, is it not?
Okay.
But we have every great faith in this man. So I don't know in this case, do we want a motion? So if someone would like to move Councillor Holdham for that position?
I thought that was done, but I won't move it.
That, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Congratulations. Well-fought election. And council appointments, none. And we'll move into delegations pertaining to items not on the agenda. And I don't think that we've heard both of them now. So we'll go into the question period, which is agenda items only. Mr. Taylor.
It's okay.
Can I say something?
No, I'm just going to give it a top.
Oh.
Fred Taylor of 204 Emery Way. Through the chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Bestwick of his understanding of how we own Bevan Park, because I understand him to say tonight it was gifted, in his words.
That's my understanding.
The city purchased it, transferred it to the RDN to have a tax base for the arena with a covenant on it to protect it as parkland. Took it back from the RDN when it was paid for, in my opinion, and had the covenant as parkland removed, which disturbs me when the city takes that action to have parkland covenants removed.
What was the purchase price?
Is a piece of land sitting there now.
What was the purchase price?
Pardon me?
What was the purchase price?
$50,000.
Thank you.
And my last question would be, in my opinion, I have seen a lot of problems start with your homeless problems, etc., in the Victoria Crescent area and through that area in the downtown core. And you developed, in my opinion, a strategy to try and spread resolutions to this throughout the community. And I would like to ask what that area is like in your experience today, bearing in mind that you don't have anywhere near the proposed housing units available. What is that area still a concern to the city? Because when I look at it today, it looks like it's very much cleaned up. Where have the people gone if you haven't got the housing? Now, my lead up to that is, I, for one, kept squawking before the previous councils when you put something like the community police station on Wharf Street without putting it into the center of the action, which in my opinion, once that was done, it was one of the problem solvers. I can recall when you had bathtub days, and even sitting in a civil defense bus at the parking lot of the Royal Bank on Commercial and Bastion, when bathtub days first started, withdrawing them as well as the police due to the crowd problems downtown, and it destroyed the town. Once you integrated and covered that town with people, authorities, etc., it calmed everything down. So what I'm trying to say is, in another example, you get into the center of the action, all this money you're trying to raise provincially and everything, do you really need it, and upset neighborhoods, etc., if you put these sort of things. And that's what the concept of community policing was, to get into the neighborhood or wherever the problem was and hopefully solve the problems. And it did, in my opinion, and you've, I believe, just admitted that it's sort of cleaned up down there, and you haven't moved the people, you haven't taken the steps to move the people into the hospital area or anywhere else. Where have they gone? What's happened?
Councillor Unger, you have a comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, yes, the downtown has been cleaned up. A lot of work has been done by the RCMP. However, we need to keep in mind that the need for housing for the homeless is often very seasonal. In summer, they seem to disappear into parks or couch surfing, and when winter comes by, that need goes up. And they're also a very mobile population. They can move back and forth to the Lower Mainland and to Victoria and Campbell River. And I've been on the street in Victoria with a member of the RCMP when street people come up and say, "Hi, Dave," to Corporal LaBerge, so they're on a first-name basis with our local RCMP, but they've moved to Victoria for the time being. And they always come back, and then they move around again, and then they come back. So it's never a firm number.
You're sort of getting to a situation I've always concerned myself, and I don't know whether you have the answer, but I'll ask it again, is I'm very concerned about, and I don't know how long you say they're the Nanaimo people, or even have that right to say where you're from or where you normally live. But I think we all need to help. But for the province, for how big a region?
I think it's any homeless person that is on our streets or in our neighborhoods that hasn't got a place to sleep. It's our responsibility to look after our fellow man and fellow woman, if you like. However, once they're here, they become our responsibility, or we can let them stay out on the street and freeze if it gets cold enough, or all wet in the rain. But I think human decency says that we have to look after them.
I have no question, but I think we need to look at resolutions that you've used in the Victoria Crescent area, etc., too, that also helps in saving our community and taxpayers' money.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Oldham, do you have a point you want to make?
Just wanted to say to Fred that, of course, the whole housing strategy is not just to address the Victoria Road issues, past or present, and in fact that the solutions, as you call them, that cleaned up that area did simply move people away from what was called the red zone. It dispersed them, perhaps. It maybe solved some of the social issues, but what we're trying to address with the housing strategy is the homeless issue, which is more or less throughout the whole community. It's not a specific area. I heard one of the comments from the neighborhood there that suggested we were trying to simply shift our downtown problem to the hospital area. Nothing could be further from the truth.
If I may ask as a question that you look at the concerns of what you did in Victoria Crescent with similar ideas, hospital area, wherever it starts a problem of a community police station or whatever, to get in there and be on top of it. And I think Mr. Unger is into those, or Councillor Unger is into those problems, as committees, etc. And I think that needs to be on top of the list.